Okay. A few more people trickled in. We'll get started because we don't want to run over, ask for 45 minutes of people's time here today. So we'll hope to have you out in that 45 minutes. For everyone who doesn't know me, my name is Rod Schneider. I'm the General Manager of Workforce in Europe, and I'm coming to you today from London. I know we've got lots of people coming in from all across the UK and Europe, and even someone from the US registered. So feel free to pop your name in the chat, tell us where you're from. Really glad to see so many people registered and listening in today. I'm going to start by just quickly introducing you to my guests, who you'll see across the top of the screen there. We've got Sanjay Malkani, the Head of Sales at Expend. G'day, Sanjay.
Hey, everyone, I'm Sanjay, Head of Sales at Expend. Expend's an all-in-one expense management solution, which support businesses large and small.
Excellent. And I've also got there Ellie Nadel. G'day, Ellie.
Hey, Rod. Thanks for having me. Great to be on here today. I founded Twice Baked about 4 years ago, and we supply the hospitality industry with technology platforms and professional services.
Fantastic. So we'll be hearing a little bit from Sanjay and Ellie throughout this, and we'll be hearing what they've been dealing with and what their clients have been dealing with, and what to look forward to. But first, a few housekeeping matters. You'll see on the right-hand side of your screen controls for the webinar. As I mentioned before, please feel free to get involved in the chat there. Ask questions as we go, as they come up, as you think of them. I'll try and weave any that are appropriate into the conversation, particularly if there's some curly ones for Sanjay and Ellie there. Otherwise, we'll come to them all at the end of the session and run through them. And just noting as well that there will be a recording of this webinar sent afterwards, so feel free to share that with your team, anyone who might not have been able to make it along, and yeah, feel free to ask any questions off the back of that as well. Thought I'd cover off on our agenda today, give you an idea of what we're going to be covering in the next 40 minutes or so. We're going to start with the behavioural challenges that we've seen since the pandemic started. We'll move through and talk about how people are preparing to manage a returning workforce and their returning clients. There's two different struggles there that are happening, and we want to hear how people are managing those. And we'll hear from our panelists in terms of what the best things they've seen from their clients are. Often when we're faced with adversity, it can bring out the best in people, and hopefully we've seen a few examples of that, a few examples of people getting innovative and overcoming the problems that we've seen over the past year or so. And along with that, also, any traps, so that, people can avoid any of those pitfalls we see out there. We'll cover off on some tools and services that people can use to assist in reopening and coming back and bringing those clients back on. And as I mentioned before, if we've got any additional questions at the end, we'll come to them and see if we can cover them off. So without any further ado, I'll throw to our panelists, and we heard a quick intro from them before, but I might start with you, Sanjay. Let's delve a little bit deeper into what Expend do exactly. So what do they do?
So Expend, what we are is we're an expense management platform. So we cover everything from out-of-pocket expense claims to mileage claims. We allow you to use one of our smart MasterCards to track your expenses automatically. We also have the ability to use your own business credit card or debit card within our platform. And the main thing with this is that all syncs nicely to your accounting software of your choice. So whether you're using QuickBooks or Xero, we've got a direct feed in with them, or you can use any accounting software for the larger or smaller organizations and export your transactions into a CSV format, which feeds nicely into a digital format that you know and love. In addition to that, we also have that coupled with our smartphone app, so you can do your expenses on the move. You can submit your expense claims while you're out and about, which, you know, in a world where people are always on the go and always moving, it's an essential.
Yeah, and what have you seen through this COVID period? How has that impacted your clients in particular, and what behavioural changes have you seen there?
Sure. I mean, we've seen a range of you know, we work with, to give you an idea, I mean, we work with the one-man band all the way up to, you know, the 100, 200, 500 user organization and everything in between. So for some businesses, obviously they've been affected by the pandemic and, you know, not fared too well out of it. Other businesses are sort of changing the way they work. For example, we recently worked with a restaurant chain, Cote, depending on how you want to pronounce it. And, you know, a big change that came from them outside the pandemic was the fact that naturally they had less cash in the till because they're only accepting card payments. So there became a problem around, well, how do we facilitate these now petty cash requests that we have within the restaurants? How do we deal with them? And essentially what they've done is put an expend card in each of their restaurants and allowed their users, when they run out of milk or a bottle of tonic, they're able to go out and purchase like they normally would, but have all of that information in digital form where they purchase the item that they need. They get a ping notification on their smartphone, and then that's pushed over to the accounting team in the head office for them to manage centrally.
Yeah, really, really simple sort of solution, but you know, probably one that's driven a heap of efficiencies that they weren't even expecting. It was done out of necessity, not out of them looking for efficiency.
Precisely, and the byproduct of that is, you know, you're getting all your VAT information across, you're getting all the transaction information across, so you're drawing into insights, even from a stock perspective, as to, oh, actually, we're buying, you know, 10 bottles of gin a week out of pocket. Why are we not adding this to our order for our central supply chain? So you're gaining insights that you would never really have access to because they're really granular. But as we all know, those granular changes in such a fast-paced, changing environment are those competitive advantages that add value to your organization, which make you thrive in such an uncertain market.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ellie, if I throw to you, and feel free to tell us, you know, a little bit more about Twice Baked, what Twice Baked do, but also keen to see what you've seen in terms of behavioural challenges and changes through the last year in your business. Yeah.
So Twice Baked is a hospitality consultancy firm, and we have two sides to our business. One is the professional services side, where we help aspiring entrepreneurs grow their business, and that's across food, people, and place across the spectrum. We also supply technology to the hospitality market, and we aim to bring in a central onboarding point that makes the implementation of multiple technologies into a business significantly more efficient and effective. So we'll help different departments work together. How does your accounts team and your operations team work together to be able to pay invoices correctly? To date, a lot of accounts teams just pay statements blindly. That's just one example. So we will work hard to bring in multiple departments and make sure that the infrastructure is set there, so that as they scale, they don't have to keep adding headcount to maintain their infrastructure.
Yeah. And what are the challenges that you've seen from your clients, and what has served clients well over the last year?
Number of challenges, because the demographic has changed significantly within areas. You know, people are not going into the cities, into the office anymore. You know, these local coffee shops and quick service restaurants aren't getting the traffic they need. Their traffic is now moved over into the suburban side. So we've got small operators previously who had kind of traded well on the weekends are now faced with significant different levels of trading over the week. And it's finding out operationally how that works. It's great that they're busy, but they have to prepare for that as well. So, you know, are they forecasting their sales correctly? Are they running out of product at the wrong time? Are they able to manage such an influx of trade in a compressed amount of time. So definitely trading patterns have been very challenging for people to get used to. And with COVID, there's no like for like. We can't look at last year and go, well, last year this time we did this. We can't even say, well, in 3 months' time we should be doing this as well.
No, because the restrictions will change from this month to 6 months to whenever.
Yeah, correct. There was a period that people could go into stores and actually grab their food. Now it's purely click and collect. How do you manage drivers and your guests coming through? Who's more important? And how do you show love equally to both? So definitely those trading patterns have made it hard, and the demographic shift between city center and suburban have made it challenging for operators to adjust to different trading levels throughout the day.
And how has that impacted the adoption of technology? So where businesses can't find staff, or when they're not sure about orders, what trends have you seen there?
Trends we've seen to date, this really depends on businesses' cash flow at the moment. What do they have available in the bank to be able to invest in their technology? We've seen a lot of businesses that have tried to not scope out the cost effectively when implementing technology. You'll have your initial setup cost, but then you'll have your own internal costs, whether those costs are related to manpower, staffing related focus, where businesses haven't resourced the implementation well enough. They haven't been able to get the first set of value out of the product. But in general, we have seen that people are now being more conscious on what they expect to understand how things are being rolled out. People are really keen to get into the technology space, but there's a lot of trepidation around, what do I put in first? How do I put it in? How do I maintain it long term? And how can this not be the barrier for me to grow in the future, but enable me to learn more and grow with having some really key ideas on KPIs?
Yeah, sure. And Sanjay, what have you observed in terms of technology adoption? I know that you talked before, just mentioned that it seems like COVID was driving people naturally to your product out of necessity. Are there any other trends that you're seeing there, or even in the attitudes of businesses towards technology?
So what we're finding is very, very similar to the insights of Eli, that people are, being very receptive to technology now. Before, it was, technology was this thing that you'd put into your business only when you reached a certain size and you had a certain budget. Whereas now, in order for you to be competitive, you have to have the technology and processes in place from the very beginning, or up until the point where, even if you're a one-man, two-man band, you still need those processes in place to remain relevant and also have that, competitive advantage and still be within the space. So we're seeing adoption, as I mentioned before, from our customer base, whether they're really small or really large. People are being more receptive to expense management as a whole. We find users spending, prior to expend one whole day doing their expense claims, when you take the hour that they spend across a month. So, people need to be using that time. You've got account staff that are collating receipts and taking pictures of receipts, where they could be using those in that time to generate, key insights for the business, look at how to grow the business, how to, add real value to their customers and even in their employees. So too much time is being wasted on expense claims, doing it the manual, traditional way. So yeah, we've really seen a increase in people adopting and sort of pushing forward the idea of using technology and using it as an advantage.
It sounds like they're looking at the insights and the benefits, not just the fact that it's getting rid of a piece of paperwork. Because I know from personal experience, the payroll team at Workforce is always very keen on an expense management system, so they don't have to go chasing receipts from everyone at the end of the month. But there's the other side where they actually can use that additional time where they're not doing that to look at the reporting and pull some insights out. We've got. I will cover this question very quickly, but I won't answer it because I being workforce, we would obviously have a position on this one. But Gary's asked which technologies clients are looking at first when they want to upgrade, and a couple of suggestions there of POS or time and attendance, or it could be something else. Ellie, do you have an answer to that one?
Yeah, it's varied and it's very specific to the business. I think the answer more rather is, what is stopping you from generating accurate data? Is it you're not consolidating sales correctly from different third parties into your point of sale, which is then pushing into your accounting, inventory management, time and attendance? Is the ancillary technology you're using underneath your point of sale not delivering? It's a very even spread across. Yes, we are finding that a lot of businesses at the moment are now in the thick of the issue of done really well on omni-channel, not recording those sales through their point of sale, and then not getting the efficiencies of cloud-based automation because they're having to manually scrape multiple platforms, ingest those sales. So typically, yes, fix the point of sale, centralize the data first, and then move down from the rest and say, great, from here, what is the right platform for me to look at and use? Yep. The other thing which we've seen as well is that when new clients come on or new restaurateurs, it's going to be very unlikely that they're going to be able to change their whole stack in one go. They have to break it down into phases and say, great, I'm going to be doing time and attendance and POS first. Let me get that working, then I'll work on the next. It becomes pretty challenging to project manage multiple parties and multiple departments in implementing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you're saying look at the biggest pain point first, and often to be truthful, that does echo what we see is that often POS will come first because cash through the door and knowing where your money is the very first thing if there's a problem to fix up. Yes. So look, I'll stay with you and I'll move to the next part, which is looking at preparing, managing, returning the workforce and returning those clients. And just wondering if you've got any thoughts from how your clients are preparing their business and preparing staff to return to work, and what that looks like if staff are coming off furlough or reduced hours. Yeah. Do they even have staff anymore, LA? Like some of these businesses haven't traded for a long time.
Yes, I mean, I can answer specifically based on kind of UK requirement, UK grants that we've got available to us. Not sure how applicable that is for other regions, but the business that we've been working with have been utilizing flexible furlough as much as possible. The biggest thing is just making sure we do a stress test of the team first and identifying the current state the team are in, the current mental health the team are in, and what time periods of the day do they want to be working. Their lifestyles have changed so much that previously they were doing on the open shift and they were in the store at 6. Now they're only getting up at 8. We can't expect them to come back at 6. So the team have really gone through and helped each of the businesses make sure that we've adopted a rota that is right for each team member to wean them back into work, where we're setting them up to succeed. The other thing which is super important, which we've been focusing on, is just over communicating to the team. So even if we're not sure what's going on, we're telling them we're not sure what's going on. So we're over communicating as much as possible,
which is understandable in the current environment, right? Because there's lots of people who aren't sure what's going on. There's lots of people who've been wrong about what's happening with the COVID restrictions and when people will come back. So there's no harm in saying I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, I would much rather under promise than over promise and say everything's going to be great and we don't know what happens in 2 weeks. But it's a consistent thing. If you don't consistently communicate with your team, they don't believe it as much. So we try and really delve deep into improving the communication from the executive team or founders down to the rest of the business.
Yeah. And Sanjay, over at Expend, I think, as much for yourselves internally as externally with your clients, but do you have some observations on people coming back to work and what that looks like, for your company or any of the companies you deal with?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's a wide variety again of how people are dealing with things, but the standard COVID safe offices, reducing the amount of people they have in the office at one time. So, which sort of leads into remote working, which is now quite a hot topic within the tech space, especially where, obviously the hospitality industry, people need to be in and working at all times. But what we're also seeing is trends where, people aren't going back to office, or they're going back 3 days a week and working from home 2 days a week. And even outside that, we're seeing some of our clients widen their employment pool. So no longer are, a development team solely based in the UK office. You've got developers in Greece and Crete and Budapest and all these wonderful places that have really great development teams, but maybe don't have the market or the employment market to maybe showcase their skills. So, we're definitely seeing a trend in that respect, which again leads quite nicely onto what we do at Expend. So we can support users across multiple different countries. Our cards work in loads of different countries as well. So it sort of goes hand in hand with how we're looking at things from a strategy perspective, and looking at the world as more of a global market, as opposed to trying to think too local.
Well, I noticed, and I think, Ellie, we've talked about this before, where Sanjay mentioned there the changing employment pool. I know that in hospitality we've had the scenario where some people have been furloughed and then they might go and look for other jobs because they're worried about the future. And then you've got businesses who aren't necessarily sure what the size or availability of their rota is. That seems to be relatively widespread in hospitality. Is that right? And how are people dealing with that?
There's no golden answer here to that.
Yeah.
Every business is gonna. It's really challenging. I think to answer that question, it really goes up to kind of a couple of layers further up, and that is making sure that the recruitment process is well polished, so that we can identify those kind of key traits where we know that people are going to be understanding that shift patterns are going to be different. Again, over communicating is the key factor here. We're lucky we still have flexible furlough, so we've got that to fall back on. When flexible furlough falls off, hopefully sales replace it, which we'll work hard to help to do.
Yeah, well, I think that answer of communication is really important, because if people aren't communicating regularly to their employee base, then they might not know exactly where their potential staffing levels are at in the first place. So that's going to be one challenge. I'm wondering, are there any other challenges that you foresee affecting the workforce in that first 30, 60, 90 days of reopening? Or there might be many things that you see. What should businesses be on the eye out for as they start to bring clients back as well?
The real issue here that we see is going to be cash flow for businesses. Cash flow is going to be tight, and every restaurateur is going to work hard to bring people through the door. The focus, what we think really needs to be on is maximizing profitability. So focusing on those big ticket items on your P&L, and really squeezing as much value out of that without hurting a guest experience. It's going to be challenging to say, cash flow is going to be tough. Packaging costs are now going through the roof, with such high demand for them. Living wage is going to be relooked at. Input products due to Brexit, that's very challenging for businesses. So you've got soaring input costs. We're not sure where sales are going. We are hyper focused on making sure that people are managing their control costs effectively. not to the detriment of the guest experience and not to the detriment of cash flow. It's finding that sweet balance of like, great, I can still make money at reduced sales, or I can stop burning cash at this level of sales.
I think that actually leads in well to sort of skipping ahead and seeing what are your clients expecting right now? Is there, what is their attitude towards reopening? Is it positive? What's the anticipation like?
Majority of our clients haven't closed, so we haven't let them close. Specifically around, even if they weren't able to facilitate a click and collect or takeaway, they need to do something. Meal kits, whatever it might be.
Is that to keep the brand present, or is it deeper than that?
Yes, it's to keep the brand present, but it's to keep the founder, the exec team motivated. Working from home has been tough, and you sit down, you're watching TV. I mean, I think we've all burned through Netflix twice. Keep scrolling, going, can they book something new for a change? It's hard to get back into work, and at least if people are doing something small every single day, it's a great thing for their mental health. It's a great thing for their kind of attitude towards the business. And actually just seeing some money come into the account is just a motivating thing, when things are locked down. So it's really just to keep everyone's kind of mood in check. And these type of situations always bring out the best in people. Like the motivated people that are committed to making a success, they'll find a way to ship that product. They'll find a way to value engineer this cost. Yeah.
So, and are they just one more on that? Even though they might not have stopped trading, they are expecting some sort of increase once, or are they expecting some sort of increase once reopening happens? And are they expecting it to all come on at once?
No, we're not expecting anything to come on at once at first. I think we'll have a nice 2-week spike. I definitely feel it's going to take us a good 12 to 18 months to, hit at least 80% of pre-COVID sales. And that's not fueled by heavy discounting, and also taking into the fact that VAT will be readjusted. So there's a couple of things that are going to help subsidize sales for the short term, but it's going to take a good 12 to 18 months to get back to where we were. We're making sure that those projections are realistic, and we're setting realistic expectations, but at the same time, space within the P&L so they can ramp things up if they do get these nice spikes, or if the sales trajectory changes to a higher sales level.
Right. So when I read in the paper that so such and such a pub is booked out until October now, or something like that, or some of the crazy stories I've been reading, it's not quite as rosy as that.
No, it's not, because their transaction value is going to be reduced because they're going to be sitting for longer. They're not going to do the same amount of covers a day. So pub is going to be serving potentially 500 to 600 people on a day. Sometimes they'll probably only get 250, and people are going to want to sit for 2 hours. For those full 2 hours. So listen, it's great. Bums on seats, right? Like, that's what we want. That's what we all want. But I think there's not going to be that kind of tipping point of going back to original sales straight away. They're not using all the space. So by that nature, they'll have to be doing double the amount of transactions every single day.
So everyone order doubles is what I hear from Ellie. Sanjay, sorry, I spent a bit of time there, but I just found that quite interesting. But Sanjay, do you have anything that you want to add there on what you've seen in terms of the attitude of people in coming back and the economy reopening?
I think it's a combination of both. I mean, we are seeing that approach where people are a bit more reserved and cautious, because they know at any given moment, like, their business could be, within a few clicks, their business can be stopped again. So they're a bit cautious about how they implement things and sort of the timelines and what the focus is, very much like you said before. So a lot of maybe new prospects that we might be having a conversation with within the hospitality sector are focused on getting bums on seats and getting money in the till, because that's the main focus at the moment. But on the flip side, there are still many industries that are doing, quite well out of the pandemic and will continue to. So, the building trade, the care home industry has been quite healthy during this time. Charities. So there's always winners and losers from this pandemic space. And I think you touched upon mental health as well being something that we've seen it personally in our organization, where we are taking time for mental health, whether it be collaborative chats around what everyone's having for dinner, just so people can take the focus away from work, to donut calls where you have a call scheduled in once a week for 30 minutes with someone in the team that you've maybe never even spoken to, and that way you can continue the conversation, create almost the virtual kitchen that you would have in most offices, where people share a coffee, to basically prevent burnout and make sure that they have a more phased, comfortable return to work as well. So it's really varied, and we obviously got the other businesses that are going and banking everything, banking on everything opening up and sort of going all gears going, bull in the China shop approach, saying we're going to have all our systems in place, all of our processes in place, because we know on this day when we're opening up, it's make or break for us, and we're just going to go in and do it.
Yeah, so, it is easy to feel like that too, and I think that's where some of the planning that Ellie's talking about really comes in, because it does feel like there's an opportunity out there, and things are opening up, and I must make the most of this opportunity. It's very easy to get overexcited, and maybe we do need to think about it won't be the same amount of money coming in the door as previously, so a little bit more planning there. I want to quickly move through and just talk about the best thing you've seen maybe from one of your clients through the shutdown phase or pandemic phase. And Sanjay, I think you had a good story on one of your clients that ramped up their operations during this period.
Yeah, precisely. So Community Action Decorum, they're a community support charity, and it really touched a nerve, really. It's just such a beautiful story where as an organization, they prior to the pandemic were taking old vulnerable people to the shops, letting them do their shopping, weekly shopping. And then obviously as soon as the pandemic hit, all of these people had to self-isolate and basically stay safe. So overnight, their processes changed, and they had all these people that still needed to go out and do their shopping. They were too vulnerable to make their own way or arrange for online shopping. So they started off with something nominal like 5 cards, and within 2 or 3 months they had 50, 60 users, and they were super reactive to this pandemic. So they obviously saw the problem, and they thought, well, we've got all of these vulnerable individuals, they still need their food. We're gonna be reactive to this situation and make sure that these people still have means to basically live and survive. So with our smart cards, smart MasterCards, they were able to give these to volunteers and staff of theirs who could go out to Tesco's, purchase shopping for them. Again, all of the receipt data would be transparent. They could be reimbursed for those transactions as well in a nice, comfortable manner, and everything's transparent, so they know who's gone out and spent on one of those cards and what exactly they've spent on. And with our smart spending policies, again, you can really entrust volunteers or members of the public quite quickly, because if for whatever reason they go rogue, you can turn off the card, you can block certain vendor types, you can turn off cash withdrawals and ATM withdrawals, and block online shopping. So the whole premise with Expend, it's, get your employees out there, let them spend, let them do their job as they normally would, but without still being in control the full time while it's happening. So there's something really powerful around that, and it just really showed the sense of community and people doing the right thing because they just want to help. And it was nice to see that community spirit come together and people, be reactive and supportive to that sort of horrible change.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's taken that option would have been there to help them accelerate and be more efficient a long time ago, and sometimes it just takes a bad situation to bring out that positive change.
Of course.
Ellie, how about you? What are you able to share a story of a client or a business that you've seen really, get innovative and excel through this period?
Yeah, so we work with a really great pasta concept in central London. Their name is Scoppetta. They have 3 locations. Obviously, when COVID hit, their sales took a huge hit. And they did a great job of not overreacting. It was great. They took a step back. They weighed up their options. They formulated a plan. They stuck to the plan. What they were able to do is continue trading in their 3 locations throughout. In one of their locations, they were able to create a central kitchen, which then outsourced majority of the prep to their locations, and they created this pasta subscription business. So you should definitely check it out if you're in the UK. And they've done.
I knew I could subscribe to other things like like Netflix and my phone plan. I didn't know I could subscribe to pasta.
And it's great. I make their own fresh pasta in house every day. And what was really great is what they didn't do was rush into anything. They took their time. They scoped it out. They really measured every single cause and effect of what they did. They went out and retendered all their pricing correctly. They worked with their staff correctly to discuss through the changes that the business was going through, what they can expect when those changes how would those changes affect them, and when things didn't go right, this is what they could do to make sure that it didn't derail from delivering a great guest experience. So it was really great to work with. Great to see that the clients that we've been lucky enough to work with for a long time that use this opportunity to go, great, it's not the best opportunity, but I'm still going to make my own good luck out of this.
Yeah, a little bit of calm under pressure there, because it is easy to get panicked when things this serious are going on, and the government's handing down legislation saying you can't do this and you can't do this anymore. So good to hear that is actually paying dividends. Have these sorts of things resulted in a new customer base for some of these sorts of clients? So if they're transitioning their model there, and they might get there might be some things that they can't do, does this mean that they're perhaps able to access some new markets or a wider range of customers than previously?
Completely, entirely, and they can hit different price points as well. Someone that's not prepared to pay £6.50 or £7 for a lunch meal in the city are pretty happy to pay £10 for a delivered make-at-home meal kit. So their product mix has definitely evolved, and the way that guests can interact with their brand is definitely significantly more mature now than it was before. For instance, you could eat at Scoppetta in 4 different ways on the same day, all through different channels.
And would you know it necessarily, or you definitely know it through the different channels?
You would know it. You would know it. Yeah, you would know it. But previously to that, the only way you could eat with them is if you went to one of their stores in the city.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting. I think we're in infancy at the moment in kind of omni-channel ordering and the ability.
Yep.
It's super interesting to see what the next 6 to 12 months are going to, what trends are going to stick, which are going to develop further, which are going to be part of large revenue streams. I think what it has highlighted, and this is something that our friends at Tenzo have mentioned previously, is that a couple of years ago it would be location, location, location. The success of a hospitality business. Now it's not. It's technology, technology, technology. You've got dark kitchens in a junkyard in central London that are doing equal sales to kind of busy restaurants in central London pre-pandemic. So utilizing technology to automate mundane tasks and then allowing your staff to deliver great guest experience. That's what's helping people adapt and grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think our friends from Tenzo are on the line today. So hello, if they
nice.
are listening. Lots of opportunities. So great to hear those clients making good of opportunities that have come through this. We don't have much time left. We've got a couple of questions, but I did want to just quickly cover off any traps that you've seen for people to avoid, or any tools and services that people can use to to mitigate these risks, or that are particularly useful that you've seen going forward? Who should I throw to first? Ellie, do you want to?
I'll go first.
You are the tools and man, right? So,
number one, I think not signing up to any erroneous lengthy contracts. That's a surefire way to make sure you can kind of protect yourself in the short term. The other aspect is, making sure that you kind of be considerate to your staff's time, is leveraging suppliers. Suppliers are keen to get back in helping, and they're happy to help on many different things. Making sure that your technology works well with other pieces, making sure that is there any outsourced prep they can help you with, et cetera, et cetera. Is there any training that your SaaS providers can help you improve the output with your staff? The other thing is not spending enough time in your restaurant or in your business with your people. Taking time at least once a month to do a stock count with somebody, or do a cash up with one of your team members, or do a line tasting with them. It gives you a lot of street cred going back into your kitchen, saying, I do know how to grill chicken or wrap a burrito. But at the same time, you can also see from the staff's perspective, like, how was it to do their job? Is there anything I can do for them that can make their day easier?
Yeah, we should absolutely maximise that opportunity, particularly if you've been starved of those opportunities previously, right? So it's a great opportunity to re-engage with the staff and make the most of it. A couple of questions. I'll give you a quick swing at this one. Lily asked, or she commented, she likes the idea of stress testing and supporting employees transition back to full-time work. But do we have a way that we propose management teams formulate their own stress test, and any best practices there? Any suggestions from either of you on that one? Ellie, I think you were about to chime in.
I think it's got to be KPI driven. You can't measure this stuff subjectively. It's very tough to measure it subjectively. Everyone has a different opinion on things. Some examples, from a strategic level perspective, or from a kind of senior management perspective, it's just getting an understanding of, how long does it take someone to reply to an email? When they commit to doing projects or tasks, are they hitting their deadlines or not? Those are surefire ways to see, like, do the people you have within your team have the current bandwidth or the current motivation to be able to kind of hit KPIs and hit objectives. Once you have an understanding from that, you can delve a bit deeper and say, well, what are the whys behind it? Why can't people finish tasks on time? Is it because it's just too difficult and it's not scoped out enough, or do they need more support? I think coupling that with consistent, regular, scheduled meetings, which is always tough to do in a business, something that I struggle with mine. Can't get my team to commit to a weekly meeting. There's always something more important coming up. I think being more firmer on that. It's a nice indicator to see, well, how are your team doing? What is going to slip? If it is going to slip, how can I prepare to fail now, which doesn't cause problems?
Yeah, well, that's where I was interested in the concept of that Sanjay touched on earlier with the donut meetings and that sort of thing. Like, if there is a way to organically allow people to just come together and talk a little bit more, then it might not necessarily have to be led by the management. You're giving the opportunity for other people to discuss there as well. That's what that's what I thought of reading that question, is some of those comments and those strategies Sanjay mentioned earlier. One final question that we can squeeze in. Do you have any thoughts on how to prevent some of the new priorities getting in the way of efficiency? Did someone mention new priorities there? I'm not quite sure what that one's referring to. I can
maybe it's referring to sort of the new priorities in terms of rolling out new software or a new solution.
Yep.
So let me just. How do you thoughts on some of the new priorities? Yeah, so with that specific question, it's always going back to the planning, right? So it's always going back to, like you mentioned with the pasta entrepreneurs, around having a plan, sticking to it, and kind of feeds into the tools and services that you might have. Is like using people like Ellie, who's got the experience, who's maybe had clients that have made the mistakes in the past, and during the expertise of experts who can work on that element of efficiency in the background for you. So whether it be someone like Ellie in a consulting space, or trusting the key advisors that you have, whether it's your accountant or whether it's the financial specialist that can do all of these efficiency plannings in the background while you're working on the set plan that you have in order to sort of make sure that your business is flourishing. Because it can, as a business owner or as a key person within the organization, you kind of get run away with ideas around how you're going to grow things and how things are going to work. But if you go back to, I think you mentioned KPIs, but another thing that we do within our company is sort of OKRs, which is similar sort of thing, but it's sort of less focused in terms of the overall. But that would be my perspective on that specific.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point there. We've just gone a little bit over, so I'll wrap things up there. But I might just give both Ellie and Sanjay a quick opportunity to add any final thoughts on going back out into the post, the reopened world of trading. Is there any final thoughts you'd like to add? Maybe you first, Ellie.
Go back into it like it was the first day you opened. That day when you first went on your own, or you first got the key to your business, or you signed your first client, or served your first customer. Going back to the reason why you started this will help navigate the storm that's that may hit, or not, or being nimble and agile enough to be able to be prepared to take the roll with the punches.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sanjay?
Have fun.
I was going to say, final thoughts are to just go with the flow and expect the unexpected. You can plan and you can do as much as you want, but you also got to remember that there's a process with this stuff, and you just got to enjoy it. The peaks and troughs of business are the nature of business. And, if we don't have those peaks and troughs, we're in some weird utopia. So I would always say, go out, put a smile on, go with the flow, stick to the plan, and go in with that high energy, big smiles, and whatever happens, you can always overcome things. So it's always important to remain positive, because life is great.
I think that's a good spot to finish up on. Look, we'll send out a follow-up email to everyone after this with everyone's details. So whether you want to catch up with Workforce or Expend or Twice Banked, you'll be able to do so. Thanks again, guys, for joining me this afternoon, and look forward to seeing you all again soon. Cheers.
Thanks.